So good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. I'm very happy to be here. It's a Friday, and we have a great set of guests here today. And I'm just thrilled that we're able to continue to highlight some of the people who are doing amazing things all across our region, and today is no exception. I would like to thank Huntington Bank for the work that they've done in supporting us right from the onset. They've been tremendous partners. And also 40 by 80, you see that up on the screen. That's the wholly owned subsidiary of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. It's the longitude of Pittsburgh. And in that organization is focused on workforce development as well as entrepreneurship. You'll hear a lot more of what we're doing there in the months ahead. So we're pretty excited about that. That's why I always give them a shout out on this show. So today, my special partner is Marie Poloni. She is on our team, and she is Director of Talent and STEM Development, and she's going to be keeping her eyes on the chat and maybe jumping in. So really thank you, Marie, for being with us today. We have a chat. The chat is to be used for you to ask our guests questions, and Marie's going to keep her eye on that, as well as we've muted you. We've muted you with the intent of not hearing things in the background today. And I don't think you'll hear my dogs today at all. So on that note, right now I want to introduce, is Marvin here? Is Marvin Mendoza with us today? If not, I'm very happy to jump in with Malesia Dunn. And Marvin Mendoza was to be on the program, and he probably will just join in. It might be a little late, but I'm totally great with having Malesia with us. And this is Malesia Dunn. She is the Executive Director of the PPG Foundation. And someone said, I am here, and it's Greta. Marvin's name is coming up as Greta. So if someone would like to Taylor, if you'd like to bring Marvin to the forefront or just continue to have Greta there, that would be awesome. So PPG announced a major commitment this week to help advance racial equity. But before we talk about that, what I always like to do is to check in with our guests and to see how they are actually doing and who are they, just a little bit about them. So I'm going to start with Malesia. You've been leading the PPG Foundation for, I think it's almost 3 years now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Can you talk about your own career path, like how you got to where you are right now, and a little bit about the foundation?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much, Audrey, for having us on. And we're really excited to be here and share with you our great news this week. But yeah, a little bit about me. I am returning to Pittsburgh. I've been here previously in another capacity in my world. I have a communications background. So I actually come from the world of corporate communications. Early on in my career, I actually was in journalism. I did television journalism for a while. But then I took the path of corporate communications. I worked for a number of global multinational companies. Here in Pittsburgh, it was with GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, which is a global healthcare company. We had an office here in Pittsburgh. Our North American headquarters was here. So I spent actually about 15 years with GSK in Pittsburgh. Also spent a stint over in the headquarters office in the UK for about 1.5 years as well. And then GSK decided to move the office to.
Okay, Melissa's frozen right now. Okay, let's go to Marvin, because I think Malesia, there has been a blackout.
Community engagement, and had done community engagement in various aspects throughout my career. And so this opportunity to take on the world of community engagement.
Okay, I am going to jump now to Marvin Mendoza, because I think we're having a little bit of a hiccup there. So Marvin, how are you?
I am great, Audrey. So thanks so much for having us on. So just a little bit about me. So I am dialing in from a town called Evergreen, Colorado. So I've been here for about 6 weeks. It's about I see some head nods. Some people know the area. So I moved here 6 weeks ago from Houston, Texas. I was there for 10 years with my husband. He's a Texan. I grew up in New Jersey. So kind of been all over the place. So our son turned 18, started college virtually, of course. He stayed in Houston, us empty nesters now, built a home in Evergreen. And so, you know, we're living the more rural life these days, very different from living right outside New York City. Yeah.
So you're new at PPG, relatively new, and you.
I am new. So I joined in November, and thank you, Michelle, for the welcome. So I joined after 22 years at PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was there in various forms of HR consulting and internal HR work. And for the past 11 years, I've been focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion work at PwC. About half of that time was spent internally leading our strategy efforts for PwC. Half of that time was consulting with companies across all clients and sectors, helping them to build a strategy, build a vision for DE&I, which includes what we do for the communities through foundations. So now I'm thrilled to be at PPG to help do the same for them.
And so what about their headquarters in Pittsburgh? You're lucky you're there in Colorado. What does that mean for your presence in Pittsburgh?
Great question. So I will be what we're calling a hybrid worker. So given that, you know, we've been building this house in Colorado for the past couple of years, it's been a dream of ours. You know, it was nice enough that the leadership team was able to work out with me a hybrid arrangement where I'll spend part of my time in Pittsburgh, of course, when it's safe to travel, part of my time in Colorado. But since my role is global, I'll probably be in a lot of our sites globally once travel is a thing again.
And so is this a newly created position for PPG?
It is a newly created position. Now, PPG actually has been focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion for about 15, 16 years now.
Right.
Back in 2005, they had a minority leadership council. They've had what they call employee resource networks and a number of different activities, but this is the first time that they have kind of a concerted focus, somebody kind of at the helm to build a strategy that's cohesive, global, and connects all across the business and connects to the foundation and what we're doing for the community in Pittsburgh, which I think is really important.
So what are some of your responsibilities? What do you see? I mean, I know you're new in the role, but what do you see some of the responsibilities and hopefully some of the outcomes?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So my first job right now is by the end of March, I will have a vision, a set of goals, a strategy, and a scorecard for diversity, equity, and inclusion for the company. That's the first order of business, all data driven. So looking at data like representation, looking at data like what we are doing for the community, what could we be doing additionally, doing some benchmarking, and then out of that will come a strategy. What I'm seeing and feeling in the organization is a lot of excitement, a lot of people who they were ready for this. You know, I can't tell you the number of reach outs I've gotten from PPG employees internally on LinkedIn, you know, saying, welcome, we're so thrilled to have you. How can I help? And there's something really special about PPG's culture that really attracted me to them, that it's just people who genuinely want to get to know you as a person. And for this topic in particular, want to help. So I'm excited about what we can do together.
That's awesome. And I see Melissa is back. I'm excited to see her back. Sorry about those technical glitches there, but that's okay. We're going to jump right in. And Marvin, don't go anywhere. We're just going to toggle back and forth. So Melissa, we talked a little bit about your background. Let's talk about the PPG Foundation. What is the PPG Foundation and its historical priorities?
Sure. So I'm not sure how much of that you heard. I unfortunately got kicked out of the meeting, but we'll try again here.
Okay, you're good now.
Okay, very good, very good. So yeah, the PPG Foundation is a nonprofit arm, if you will, of the PPG company. The foundation's been around for more than 60 years, providing support in the communities where PPG has a presence, including our hometown here in Pittsburgh. We currently have a focus on organizations supporting education and primarily STEM education. So we have a particular focus on STEM education and also workforce development, as well as community sustainability. So we look for opportunities to help provide, sustainable support within our communities. And again, we focus on primarily those communities where we have a presence. But STEM is really our big focus. We've put an effort there because of the really urgent need, frankly, to fill roles in STEM, not only in our company, but companies around the world. And we've also noticed the lag in students, and particularly students of color, and going into these particular career fields. So that is really where our focus lies.
And so since you're all over the world, and we'll get to this in a moment, we'll talk about this new initiative. I promise that we'll get there. Your commitment is to all of PPG around the globe. What does that represent? Like what kind, give people like the number of locations or the footprint.
Sure, sure. So the foundation is focused primarily here in the US. So all of our locations in the US, we have really 5 key locations, including Pittsburgh, Northern Ohio, including Cleveland, the Detroit area, Southern California, Huntsville, Alabama are kind of our key locations here in the US. But that being said, we have distribution centers and other facilities, manufacturing facilities in other parts of the US as well. Where we'll make sure we're making donations and supporting those local communities. Globally, we are in more than 70 countries around the world, so just about everywhere. We're split into 4 regions around the world: US, Canada, Latin America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific regions. So we touch just about everywhere with our giving. And so we have a team of people that I work with around the world to make sure that we are aligning our contributions and our support to some organizations, wonderful organizations really around the world.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to jump over to Marvin now. I'm going to ask him, listen, Marvin, in the wake of the George Floyd tragedy and others, PPG expanded its focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in training, for example. Can you talk about that training? Can you talk about it at all? I know you're pretty new, but I know it would be great to hear what it consists of and, you know, the effectiveness and any kind of wisdom that you can impart to all of us.
Sure, it's a great question. So I'll talk about a couple of things that I know that occurred after George Floyd's killing and the killing of also other Black Americans, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and others. So we do have training. So the training that we have, unconscious bias training. So I actually took it. If I'm going to be leading efforts, I want to make sure I understand what it is that we're pushing out. You know, I was a little concerned, quite honestly, at first, being part of other unconscious bias training sessions, that we wouldn't have kind of the robust, real, honest dialogue that I've had in in-person kind of intimate settings. And I can tell you, after this session, we were able to have robust dialogue. So it was a session that kind of gives people the understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion are, and then goes into the topic of unconscious bias. And the concept of unconscious bias being a few things. 1, everybody has them. Number 2, there's no need to be ashamed by them. And number 3, the work is to understand what your unconscious biases are so that you can start basically working against the way that your brain has innately been programmed as a human being, start questioning that and acting in a different way. And it was great because we created a space virtually, a safe space where people were able to share perspectives that sometimes were on different ends of the spectrum. But because it was a safe place and we're all part of the PPG family, we all know that we're in this, you know, for the right reasons, and we're able to have a robust dialogue, change people's thinking on things, lots of aha moments individually. So I'm excited about that training and being able to scale it more than it has been. To date, we've put probably around 1,300 of our people managers through this training. So it's people who lead others so that they're aware of their biases, and we'll be scaling this out further as well. The other thing, which I think is probably just as impactful, is we had what are called kind of courageous dialogues with our people. And essentially what that meant was our leaders getting their people together virtually, of course, and having very courageous conversations about race, specifically hearing stories about some of our Black professionals in the US and some of the things that they've gone through in their life that, quite honestly, a lot of our folks didn't know about. And in those stories, you know, they're heartbreaking, some of the stories. I've heard about a number of organizations doing this. I think this is probably one of the most impactful things that organizations can do, is to create a safe space for their people to talk about topics that were typically before pretty taboo. like race, like sexual orientation, like gender, what that experiences was like, what people have maybe held back and it hasn't allowed them to bring their whole self to work, and to create that empathy among the team so that people can feel like they can bring more of themselves to work and ultimately perform better.
So there's a question out there, but before I lob it over to Marie to grab it, I want to ask you a question, Marvin. Did you learn anything through that training?
I learned something in every one of those sessions. Now, quite honestly, I was, probably 3 weeks at PPG. So a lot of what I learned was different parts of the business. And that, for me, I'm building relationships. So getting to know people individually and part of their stories was probably one of the most impactful things for me, as well as understanding what the experience is like for people who are in parts of the business where, some of our businesses, people have to show up. They're plants and manufacturing facilities. So understanding that difference in what they're going through and how that, has added stress to their life was really helpful for me to hear as well.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be interesting doing this during COVID. That just exacerbated so much, and particularly since George Floyd. Marie, what have we got?
Yeah, my hat's off to you, Marvin. That is such fantastic work, and it's exciting to hear about. We have a question from the wonderful Ingrid Cook from Shazoom. She said, how has that training translated into actual results in your organization? What have you seen? And really, she wants to know, how are you measuring the success of your training?
So excellent question. So I can tell you what I will be measuring, because I'm in the process right now of doing an assessment. So it's what I did for clients over the years. It's basically looking at data sources like engagement, like headcount, et cetera, and then seeing where there's issues or inequities and then coming up with solutions to basically close those gaps. So right now, I would say that the training is a tool or a solution where I probably need to focus it a bit more once I do the data and the analysis and see where I need to focus it. From doing this work in the past, training effectiveness, to me, it's interesting because I think a lot of folks in the training space over the years, they're wonderful folks that pointed to scores, how people feel right after the training session. To me, a measure of success isn't how people feel after the training session, is does that carry forward into something measurable? So for me, it's about engagement scores. So in engagement scores, there's always a subset that focus on some type of inclusion or belonging set of questions. What I would want to see is some measurable change in those inclusion questions, how people feel a sense of belonging after, let's say, an entire team has taken that training. And I would want to see that sustained over time.
Okay, so I think that answers Dan's question as well. I want to go to Melissa now and just talk about, this week, PPG announced, a $20 million initiative to advance racial equity. Can you talk about the announcement and what it means?
Absolutely, sure. So again, yeah, as you said, we did make this announcement, and yes, our focus will be on this $20 million commitment over the next few years between now and 2025. We've got it focused in a few different areas. So starting with advanced STEM education and career development for college level students. So looking at sort of the university college level and identifying programs where we can help support, whether that's scholarship, mentoring, career development. We'll look at a number of different programs to help support students as they carry on and really move from college into graduation in these STEM careers. We'll put a particular focus on engineering, chemistry, and data science, which is a relatively new field, but new and growing. And we wanted to really kind of challenge ourselves, but also really the industry to really make some strides in those areas. We'll also focus in on K through 12 education. So it's important to get them to graduation, but it's also important to sort of build a pipeline, if you will, of students coming in. So, there is exposure programs and opportunities to get younger kids just exposed to concepts around STEM education. And then, middle high school is when they're really starting to decide whether or not this is something they like or even enjoy doing, and even want to consider pursuing it into college. So we'll have programs for those students at that level to really kind of engage them a bit more in what is STEM and what does it really mean? What does a career in STEM even look like, so that at least they have an opportunity to see what the potential might be. Yeah, go ahead, Audrey.
Any experience or any interest in apprenticeship kind of programs?
At this stage, we're open to looking at all types of programs. I think, ultimately, as long as it is advancing this education field for students, I think we'd be open to what that looks like, right? We'll also put some focus in some social justice areas as well. So
Nice.
carrying on some of the work we started this past year, following the death of George Floyd, we'll continue to look at areas focused on social justice. So some of the funding will go there as well to carry on that. We have a wonderful program that's been going on now for 5 years called Colorful Communities. We actually do that program all over the world, where we make our employee volunteers go into communities and work with nonprofits to do painting projects. And amazing to see the difference a coat of paint makes on a particular environment, really brightening up that environment. We'll take those projects and put a particular focus on minority communities and making sure we are supporting those communities with these types of projects. And then we'll be looking for new opportunities as well. So, there's some programs that we're already funding that will, carry on as part of this. There's a great local program that we do with the Boys and Girls Club. They do a AI, artificial intelligence, career pathway program for high school students. And we'll continue working with them to continue that program and possibly even expand it. So, there's great programs out there. The Neighborhood Academy is doing a wonderful job. They are creating actually a female STEM focused program, which I think is just great to put a focus on young girls, primarily young Black girls, to get them interested in STEM careers. So we'll be working and looking for all these great programs that we can put our funding behind to really help advance as much as we can in the areas.
Those are some great programs too. Really great to hear that you're supporting them. So just from a Pittsburgh selfishness perspective, how much do you think of that money will be committed to the Pittsburgh region?
Sure. So we are committing about 25% in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
So, a nice amount will go into our hometown community. So we'll definitely put a focus here. And then obviously the rest will be spread primarily in those markets that I've talked about and where we have a presence around the country. I will say that our overall funding, also am committing at least, we'll continue this commitment really. We're already doing this, more than 50% of our overall funding will go to all diverse communities. So we'll start to take a closer look at all areas of diversity and making sure that we're supporting various aspects of that as well with our funding. So I think it's really just being a bit more focused and also being intentional about the work that we're doing.
So is there a link for people to look for information, or do you want everyone to just reach out to you?
So usually the way that it works, we invite organizations to apply for funding.
Okay.
So you can certainly go on our website in our community engagement section. You can learn more about the type of work that we do, but we don't necessarily have an open call.
Okay. Right, that's fine. I really appreciate you setting,
Sure, absolutely. No, that's important.
Yeah, that's great. And so there's some questions that I think are geared towards both of you. I want to pass that over to Marie. Thank you, Melissa, for that.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, thank you. And you can see that the link there is in the chat for that exact question.
Thank you.
Again, excellent work. Thank you for continuing to do that work. I think Mark's question probably is more back for Marvin, but if you have anything to add, Melissa, please do. But just some specific books, training programs, videos that PPG recommends in the work that you're doing where other companies can then implement it with their staff.
So I will actually make it very easy. I'm a big fan of the one-stop shop. So we are a member of CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion. It's a coalition of now over 1,600 companies whose CEOs have signed on to commit to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion in a meaningful way in their organizations. I'm really proud because Michael McGarry, our CEO, was one of the first 150 to sign on. They have a site, CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion, that actually has a set of free resources across all of these areas. They have videos, they have articles, suggested resources. They're a really great starting point for organizations who are trying to start this journey, have meaningful dialogues. And if you're not a signatory already, there's information to sign on. If you're a signatory, you get access to a complete other set of resources that go into another level of detail.
That's great. So,
Oh, there was a shout out there from Marsha Colby.
Thank you, Alexis.
Yes, thank you, Lexi, for putting that out there. Marsha Colby just wants to give PPG a shout out for hiring one of the Promise Scholars when the Promise was still very new, very unproven. She said Shakir has worked in PPG's IT department for at least 5 years now, received professional development opportunities, been promoted. Yeah, fantastic work.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
That's really great. So Marie, from your perspective on talent and STEM, is there any questions that you think you should ask, that you want to ask Marvin or Melissa?
My question is, when can we talk more? I need to talk to both of you more offline because we have so many great synergies and things that I would love to talk to you both about, not only pick your brain, but just really get you excited about some of the work that we're doing here on both of your sides. So yeah, I've enjoyed being part of this conversation. You're going to hear from me.
So
absolutely. And you know what, feel free to reach out to me. Look, I'm more than happy to, let's take a call or set up an email chat, whatever is easiest. Feel free to reach out to me.
So, because Luke Carmelengo is actually saying he's been very active. He's an active member of the Tech Council, as well as many things in the civic community. He's asking what's the best way to introduce themselves to the PPG Foundation if you're not familiar with the work. So it's just reaching out to you, Melissa?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to schedule some time with you.
Okay, so your question is answered. So to the both of you, thank you for that. Thank you for being approachable. Really appreciate that. We can tell the culture of PPG just by what you both are conveying right now. So is there anything else that both of you would like to make some final comments on? Marvin, you're going to talk about how you love Pittsburgh and you're going to eventually buy a house in Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm waiting for that.
So let me tell you, I have a friend who is an ex-PPG who I'm trying to steal back actually, who told me that I'm going to love Pittsburgh, and he was right. So let me tell you, I've been there a couple of times. It is so beautiful, like the view, especially from PPG's building, of all the bridges and the canals and the hills. It's gorgeous. I'm a little bummed because I heard that the restaurant scene was really picking up before COVID hit. So I'm looking forward to things being opened up a little bit, being back in town and being able to explore the restaurant scene. So hopefully I'll have the chance to meet some of you in person at some point fairly soon.
No, absolutely. Melissa, anything else that you'd like to address that perhaps we didn't, talk about?
No, I would say thank you guys for the opportunity to share some of the work we're doing. Super excited about, this new commitment, and looking forward to finding great programs or creating some great programs, frankly, just to help advance the education of some of our kids that are in so desperate need to move forward. So looking for those opportunities. So again, like I said, feel free to reach out. I'm like I said, I'm approachable. I don't have an admin, it's just me. So I'll get back to you directly via email, and we can set up some time for a call. But thank you guys for having me. I'm here in Pittsburgh. I'm out in the North Hills area. So you see me around town. Of course, now it's hard to tell because you got the mask, and feel free to stop me if you see me.
Have the two of you met each other in real time?
Yeah. We met, I think it was your very first day, Marvin. Marvin was here in Pittsburgh, and we did have a chance to meet in person.
Okay, good. Well, listen, I'm glad you're both safe. I'm actually very glad to meet the both of you, and that this perspective and the work that you're doing, we're going to hear more about. We're big fans of PPG. They've been an amazing corporate citizen to this community and this region. And it's thrilling to see the commitment that PPG has across everything. You can see someone gave a shout out about your work in the supply chain and the diversity, the commitment there, and it goes on and on. So I can't thank you both enough for taking the time. I think Marvin, what time is it there? 10:30?
Exactly, you got it right.
It's 10:30, okay. So we didn't have to wake you up. But I really appreciate you joining us. It's great meeting you. I can't wait to meet and hug you both at some point in the near future. Thank you again. You're getting lots of shout outs. Doris Carson Williams, everyone's saying thank you for the work that you're doing. So Marvin, PPG is well loved here and well appreciated. So it's not,
I feel it. I love hearing this actually, because I feel it within the PPG family, and now to hear it from me outside just validates it for me so much more. Thank you so much for having us.
No, we will connect you to the tech community even more aggressively in the future. So thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Marie, for being with us. And Jonathan, Marie, do you know who we have on Monday?
I do.
Hi, Jonathan.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah, Cameron Barlotta stopping by to talk about all things public policy, maybe some idea of legalizing marijuana and so forth. Should be interesting. And also next week, I am interviewing our two subjects today for a Tech Vibe Radio One Mic Stand podcast. We can have a deeper dive on all the great work PPG's up to. So it should be super exciting.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, PPG and the leadership at PPG for these two incredible hires on your leadership team. And everyone stay safe, and we'll see you on Monday. Thanks, Marie, for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Wonderful to meet you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Good to meet you all. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.